Hello and welcome to Talk to Your Health. I'm your host, Dr. Derek Da Silva. Colon cancer affects 1 in 20 Americans and it's the second leading cause of cancer death in the United States. Unfortunately, only 1/2 to 2/3 of the people in the United States undergo colon cancer screening. Since March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, we thought it was a really good time to inform all of you about this very serious problem. Dr. Mark Fiorillo is a board-certified internist and gastroenterologist and also a hepatologist. Dr. Fiorillo is a doctor with advanced gastroenterology of Bergen County in Inglewood Cliffs. Also with me is Dave Dubin. He's a 3-time colon cancer survivor who is now an advocate to raise awareness about getting screened. Thank you, gentlemen, to both of you for being here.
Thank you.
You know, I've heard colon cancer called the silent killer. Can you comment on that?
Well, there are classic symptoms of colon cancer, such as change in bowel habits, persistent diarrhea, constipation, and passing blood per rectum, unintentional weight loss. But there are a lot of people who don't have any of these symptoms. That's why it earned that title, and that emphasizes, I think, the importance of screening even without symptoms.
You know, Mark, excuse me, Dave, the idea of being screened and the fact that you had colon cancer 3 times?
Actually, twice. Kidney cancer was the 3rd time.
So you, I mean, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, the first time I was 29 at the time, and I actually did have symptoms. So.
And what symptoms, by the way, did you have?
I had blood coming
Blood
out
in
of
your
stool.
stool?
I had cramping. I felt like I was trying to pass a baseball, but actually it turned out to be the size of a grapefruit. So I did have the symptoms the first time. I don't know how long it was growing there before I actually was diagnosed correctly. But you alluded to the silent killer component. The second time, I actually did not have symptoms. So you're correct in that fashion as well.
And you had, what did you have the second time?
I had colon cancer the second time. It had been less than a year since my previous colonoscopy. And I was a frequent blood donor at Community Blood Services. And after 5 years of being cancer-free, you're allowed to donate again. So I started donating, and I went there on a Friday, and my iron count had dropped like a stone. So realistically, if I had not been a blood donor, I may not have been caught in time.
Colonoscopies, doctor, they're so important, they're so critical. The one issue that I have that a lot of my patients talk with me about is the prep. Can you talk to us about that prep? And where are we today? Is there anything better we can do than that nasty prep that people have to do?
Well, the prep has a bad reputation, but I can't emphasize how important it is. I think it's probably the most important part of the procedure. Without a good prep, small polyps on the order of 3, 4, 5 millimeters can be missed even by the best gastroenterologist. So it's very important. Typically what the prep entails is a clear liquid diet the day before, and that could mean broth, tea, juice, jello, even black coffee, which a lot of people can't go without their coffee, so that's a good thing. And then at night, typically the patient will take 2 to 4 pills, followed by a certain volume of fluid as decided by the gastroenterologist. The preps are not as bad as people make them out to be. They taste better nowadays. We're using less volume, and even we're doing things like splitting the dose, some at night, some in the morning, just to decrease the volume and make it more doable.
Dave, you are now a huge advocate. Before we came on the show here, you were telling me about some of the things you're going to be doing. Can you tell me a little bit about how you're raising the level of awareness to people out there?
Well, sure. What happened was, essentially February of last year came around, and I kind of found out that March was Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. You would have thought I would have gotten the memo a little sooner. So I did a little investigating, and I spent a lot of time online. I found a lot of groups that are doing some real good work out there. And I found one group that does a colander.
Colander?
Colander.
Like a colander?
Like a calendar. It is a calendar of colon cancer survivors.
Is this you?
That is me.
Wow, what a stud muffin.
Mr. January. All right, I'm blushing too early in the show. So a group of us applied, and over 100 people applied, and it's a great thing. So we got together, we did the photo shoot, we got together with other survivors, and it was a great way of raising awareness. What I was not expecting was to hear from, they're just kids, they're 17, 20, 22, 25, and they look at me as some sort of inspiration because I've lived into my 40s, which is very surreal because I forget what I was like at 29.
Right.
So now I bring my colander and I do a lot of signings at various events.
That's fantastic.
Among other things.
Yeah, risk factors. What are some of the risk factors for colon cancer, doctor?
Well, the average colon cancer is well,
family history.
Family history is a
should be
major risk factor. We begin screening the average person at 50, but if there is a family history, we tend to screen 10 years before the family member was diagnosed.
Right. Obesity is number 2.
Obesity is a major one, with a sedentary lifestyle, lack of exercise.
You know, obesity is implicated in everything, isn't it? I mean, it's unbelievable when we look at that. And smoking, obviously, is another one that's implicated in everything.
Many things.
So, and sedentary lifestyle?
Yes.
Why is sedentary lifestyle? How does that fit in?
Well, the lack of exercise and contributes to obesity.
Okay. Ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease.
Right.
How is that?
Any inflammatory bowel disease, whether it be ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease that causes chronic inflammation in the colon, can lead to the development of cancer earlier than the average population.
And also being African American.
Right. We found that there's a higher incidence of colon cancer in the African American population, and they're advised to be screened sooner than age 50. At age 45, typically, with no symptoms, we tend to begin screening.
Now, Dave, when we talk about this whole idea of raising awareness, okay, you mentioned the Red Bulls, and you're going to be doing something there.
Very excited.
Do people listen? Do people really pay attention when we raise awareness on programs like mine and the programs that we're doing? Do people pay attention to this?
I think they do, and especially when it comes from someone who's like me, who's younger, relatively good shape. You would not think that I was a 3-time survivor based upon looking at me, and the other people who were in the colander with me, you would say the same thing. So a lot of the presentations that I go on, typically you'll have a doctor such as yourself give a presentation talking about clinical programs, talk about clinical issues, and then I'll get up there and I'll ask, people will ask me a lot of questions. You know, and it can be varied based upon a number of topics, and I'm comfortable with it.
Right.
And that often hits home. So the thing we're doing with the Red Bulls, you know, where they're making a game the 25th in honor of colon cancer awareness and Alive and Kick, and that's huge because of the Hispanic market.
Absolutely. Can we talk a little bit about some of the symptoms? Dave mentioned some of them. What are some of the typical symptoms? And we're going to be putting them up also. Number 1 is bleeding. Right.
Any type of rectal bleeding or passing blood per rectum, whether it be black stool sometimes or red blood, should be evaluated and not ignored.
And unintentional weight loss. Makes sense?
Yes, yeah. People that are not exercising and they're eating a normal diet and suddenly they start losing weight for no clear reason.
Change in bowel habits?
Right, whether it be persistent constipation, persistent diarrhea, that doesn't go away.
So I think the bottom line here for everybody out there and for everybody watching this is get your colonoscopy done. If you have a family history of colon cancer, we're supposed to start screening at the age of 50, start 10 years earlier, right?
Exactly.
And just get it done. I think that's the message here.
It's that simple.
And it's that simple, absolutely. And I thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you with us. Stay with us on 12T Health. Later on in the show, we'll answer some viewer questions. And after the break, cancer may be the 2nd leading cause of death, but heart disease is still number 1. Find out why healthy athletic people need to keep an eye on their heart health also. But first, your health bite of the week. We know berries are good for your heart. New studies show they're also good for your brain. Welcome back to 12T Health. I'm Dr. Derek De Silva. When it comes to heart disease, active people are generally better off than those who don't exercise. But today, we want to consider whether a routine physical exam should be supplemented with more advanced testing for older weekend warriors who really push their limits. My guest today is Dr. Joel Jakowitz, a cardiologist and founder of the Cardiac Edge in Emerson. Also with us is a cardiac patient, Michael Maddalena. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So, doctor, just a regular physical exam is not enough anymore?
You know, I think that probably the problem is with younger patients, for example, in their 20s and 30s, are really not at serious risk for heart disease, though some 20 or 30-year-olds do have heart disease. But as we get older, specifically after 35 or 40, some of the risks that were not present when we were in our 20s now become more important. For example, the development of high blood pressure between the ages of 35 and 55 may negatively impact on cardiovascular health. And the second thing that becomes more important is if there is a family history of heart disease, specifically at a young age, and this will start to impact patients when they're in the late 30s, 40s,
right,
and 50s.
Michael, what's the story with you? I mean, I'm assuming that you had a regular physical exam, and take it from there. What happened?
I will admit that I was overweight, and I decided that that wasn't a good thing. So I went for a normal physical with my physician, and I still didn't feel right when I was exercising.
What do you mean by you didn't feel right? Define that.
I'd start running and riding my bike, and even older people would be doing much better than me, and I was feeling out of breath and kind of a little squirrely feeling.
So what did you do? Did you seek out the good doctor here?
I actually tried again with my local doctor and had another test, and that was fine, but I still knew it wasn't right.
You know, I really like the fact that you said, that you just pointed out, that something wasn't right and you listened to your body. I think that's extremely important. So what did you do, doctor?
So that's exactly it, especially with men, I think have a tendency to downplay their symptomatology and will continue to exercise despite having symptoms.
It's called testosterone. You know, guys can't help it. It's called testosterone. There's nothing they can do about it. But anyway, what did you do?
Anyway, what we wound up doing in Michael's case was he had a routine stress test up in Connecticut, and that was reported as normal. So we went ahead and we did two other specific tests. We did an echocardiogram, which was demonstrated, for example, is demonstrated here. But more importantly, is we did a stress test with this echocardiogram.
Now, tell me what we're looking at here. First of all, I am amazed that this little machine is an ultrasound machine. Talk to me about this thing. It's incredible.
Well, this is a machine made by GE.
Okay.
We've had this specific model for about 3 years, but they've made this model for probably about 6 to 7 years.
All right.
And one of the things they're trying to do is miniaturize.
Obviously.
But what's also very interesting about this machine is it's a very powerful machine.
All right, but tell us what we're looking at here.
This is actually several chambers of the heart in one view. We actually look with an echocardiogram at multiple images and multiple views, but this is the first image that we take.
So what does this tell you, though?
This is right here is telling me that the main pumping chamber of the heart, which is called the left ventricle, is normal. It's pumping normally. Though we don't see all the walls here, we see most of them.
Okay.
It's also showing us a couple of the major valves in the heart, the mitral valve right over here, and the aortic valve right over here.
Right. So if there's abnormalities in any of this that is going on, you will be able to pick that out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else did you do? Because we have some other video of another test that you do called a VO2 max.
Right.
What is that?
The VO2 max is a metabolic test which measures a certain process that's going on in the body.
This guy looks like he's going to the moon. All right.
Well, he's going to be pushed till he can't go anymore. What this is measuring, VO2 max, it's measuring the amount of oxygen that's taken in at maximum exercise. And this is a marker of current state of fitness, and it's also a marker of potential athletic ability and ability to compete in, for example, in endurance events.
Right. Now, did you do all these tests, Michael? And what came up through all of this with you?
I was not as well as I thought I was. And, I had actually some serious heart disease that I wasn't aware of.
Can you be more specific?
Well, what happened was we did this stress test with an echocardiogram, and it's called a stress echocardiogram. And what we saw with Michael, which was very interesting, going back to some of his symptoms were very hard to get a handle on. I mean, they weren't the typical symptoms that most men get when they have blockages within their arteries, which is usually exercise-induced chest pain. So we did the stress echo, which is a combination of doing an echocardiogram with stress. And what we found out was one large area of his heart muscle stopped working with exercise.
Wow.
And
but that wasn't picked up on the stress test?
That was not picked up on the routine stress test. In fact, since the stress echo is 2 parts, it looks at the EKG and the walls. His EKG response to exercise was remarkably normal.
So you like the stress echo better than the stress stallion?
They have this, in the right hands, they have the same sensitivity.
I see.
But the advantage to this is there's no radioactivity involved.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this test. Hey, thank you very much for this great information, and we do appreciate you being here. Thank you. I think, once again, folks, the bottom line here is if you don't feel right, listen to yourself and make sure that you pay attention to what's going on in your body. Stay with us. When we come back, I'll answer some of your email questions. But first, here's a look at this week's Community Health Calendar. You're watching 12 to Your Health on News 12 New Jersey. I'm Dr. Derek DeSilva. It's time now to answer some of your health questions. A viewer named Lenny emailed and asks, do you get the same amount of benefits from juicing fruits and vegetables than if they remain whole? Well, Lenny, I have to tell you that I really like the idea of juicing. My only problem with juicing is cleaning out the mess, cleaning up the mess when you're done. But the idea of juicing, a lot of times you put the whole fruit, you put the whole vegetable in, because there are a lot of nutrients in the skin, and there are a lot of nutrients in some of the seeds in some of these fruits and vegetables. So to answer your question, I really like the idea of juicing than eating the whole fruit, because you can also mix a whole bunch of things together. Our next question comes from John, who has high cholesterol. Although he maintains a healthy diet, he wants to know if there are any vitamins or supplements he can take to help lower his cholesterol, such as something like pycnogenol. Well, pycnogenol is a very potent antioxidant. In my opinion, it's used more of an antioxidant. Does it have cholesterol benefits? It may, and it probably does. But there are other things that are much better when it comes to cholesterol. For example, red yeast rice. I really like red yeast rice. I love fish oil. Fish oils are great for cholesterol and triglycerides, very safe. Also, there are things like phytosterols. There's glucoestrone. So there's a whole lot of things that you can do that are specifically for cholesterol that'll help maintain healthy, normal cholesterol levels. Thank you very much, by the way, for those questions. And if you have any questions for me, please email them to 12toyourhealth@news12.com, and I'll answer them right here on the show. I thank you once again for watching 12 to Your Health, and until next time, I'm Dr. Derek DeSilva, and may you always be blessed with good health.